Jurassic World Dominion is the 6th installment of the Jurassic film franchise. It is the 3rd and final installment of the World trilogy. This one has Colin Trevorrow returning to the director's chair after being absent for Fallen Kingdom because he was directing episode 9 of Star Wars for a bit until, you know, creative differences. But instead of writing it with Derek Connolly, who he usually writes his scripts with, he co-wrote this with Emily Carmichael coming off of Pacific Rim Uprising. This movie takes place, of course, after the events of Fallen Kingdom. About 4 years, dinosaurs now coexist with us in the world, and everyone's having debates about it. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's characters, Owen and Claire, they're out in the middle of the woods protecting their now daughter, who was the clone girl of James Cromwell in the last one. They're protecting her because if someone finds her, they're never going to see her, they're going to study her and experiment on her. We can't have that happen, so they're hiding out with her. On the other end of this story, you have a new company called Biosyn who's kind of taken charge of gathering up these animals and, you know, studying them, making sure they're not causing too much problem. This is their sanctuary, but there is a problem going on with crops and seeds, something going on with locusts. Which causes the original cast, the legacy characters, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum to reunite, and they try to infiltrate that place to see what's going on. You got two different stories going on here with two different casts, and eventually they'll merge together for something. I have an interesting relationship with this franchise because obviously, as you all know, I love the original Jurassic Park. Who doesn't? It's a classic. Lost World I'm okay with. You can definitely tell Spielberg was at the time struggling between making two different movies and his heart just wasn't in it, but for someone who admitted that his heart wasn't even fully into it, he still directs it better than a lot of whatever kind of sequel movies, so I can enjoy it because of that, but it's not really good. Jurassic Park 3, no one wants to talk about that, so we're just gonna skip right over that one. That says enough. When Jurassic World came out, I was excited because, hey, they're bringing back Jurassic Park and it's a whole new thing. The theme park is, like, lived in now. People are here and touring it. That's an interesting idea, and especially in recent years, the idea that a company would go back and fully, you know, develop this horrible idea doesn't seem too far off from, like, the stupidity of corporations. Like, I feel like a lot of people dunked on that movie because I just don't think anyone would go back and actually do this idea, but, like, have you seen what people do? Like, this has aged pretty well, actually, this concept. But I have an interesting relationship with that movie because it's a bad movie. I've rewatched it plenty of times, and on my recent rewatch, it's like, okay, there's certain things that even now, I just have to admit to myself, these are problems. It's not a great movie, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I can watch it and just have fun with it. You know, I think Colin Trevorrow directed a fun enough movie out of that. You know, it has its issues, but whatever. You know, I had a special experience seeing that where I was supposed to see it in IMAX the Thursday night opening, but then something went wrong with the projector, so everyone didn't get to see it. So my mom decided, you know what, you have school tomorrow, but it's like the week before the last week, who gives a shit? I'm gonna get you out early and you're gonna see this fucking movie during the day. It was a great experience and a fun time. Fallen Kingdom, however, it's stupid. It's aggravating. How many times I watch that and I go, fuck, it's just so dumb. And they're acting like, no, this is really profound and thought-provoking or interesting. It's like, no, it's so stupid. Why are you sticking with this dumb idea? The thing that saves it, though, for me, is J.A. Bayona. He's a wonderful director, and he directs that movie so well. I feel like a lot of people just write that movie off as like, oh, that's just a fucking horrible movie. Oh my gosh, so horrible. And it's just, I find it kind of offensive to J.A. Bayona because he really does put his all into that movie and trying new things with the camera, you know, the shot composition, the horror stuff, and, you know, really doing a fantastic job of blending the visual effects and the practical stuff. I'm in awe that he was able to direct this terrible script in a way that makes you think, this is a pretty good, like, this would be way better if the script was better, you know what I mean? He puts his all into it, and I just don't think he gets enough credit, and people write that movie off way too easily. And that movie ends in a place where I was like, you know, it's such a dumb lead up, but I'm not against the idea of dinosaurs being in our world and how do we respond to that. I would like to see this sequel. I just don't like Fallen Kingdom's execution of getting there, but here we are. We're here. This is the movie that Colin Trevorrow has even admitted, yes, this is the one I've wanted to make from the start. We just needed these movies to get to this point. He's coming back, obviously, because episode 9 didn't go anywhere or anything like that. And they announced, you know, Chris Pratt is obviously coming back, so is Bryce Dallas Howard. Everyone already from Jurassic World who's available is still going to come back, but also Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum. They're all here. Oh my gosh, the original cast. And that was exciting just as far as like a fan goes. Like when the marketing started and they had those like little, you know, tinkling piano moments showing them interacting, I was like, oh, damn it, you know, it warms my heart seeing them because I love them so much. However, I was still very nervous about the movie because even though Colin Trevorrow didn't direct Fallen Kingdom, he had a big hand in the script. He wrote that script that I said was so awful that J.A. Bayona literally did his all to try to save it. It was just really not a good sign, especially with the news that Derek Connolly wasn't co-writing it with him. It was the woman who had a hand in Pacific Rim Uprising. I don't know how much of a hand she had because, you know, studio movies, everyone's got a hand in it at some point. And Pacific Rim Uprising, no matter what you want to say about it, not a fan, didn't really care for that. The first one's way better, and this one just did not do anything for me. So having someone from that creative team work on this last Jurassic World movie where the original cast is also supposed to show up, I was very worried. I didn't think they would do anything bad to the characters, but I want them to be in like a good story at least, you know? So going into it, when the movie opened up, you know, you have that footage where they're showing newsreel stuff of like, here's everything going on right now, how dinosaurs are negatively affecting us. And I was like, all right, here we go. We're in the world. And then we don't really get a lot of that idea of embracing these dinosaurs and living with them, like what we do to actually do that, you know, because people want these dinosaurs to keep roaming around. They still want them around, so what do we do? And they don't really have enough time to really show that off. There's like little glimpses of like, look, a little one is like in front of Congress and a girl is feeding it. Or, you know, some pteranodons or pterodactyls, whatever they are, you know, on top of this building in a nest. Okay, you know, they ended that movie in a way where they were like, yeah, this is going to be a big deal, and then it's kind of not. It's only a big deal when it's most convenient for action. And something I noticed right away, like before, after the Universal logo, before the actual title comes up, before they even get to the newsreel stuff, there's like, you know, these people out on a boat and the Mosasaurus comes up and grabs onto their cage, but I noticed there was not really any like style to it, you know what I mean? There was no like build up. Which is something that a lot of action scenes do very well, but also Spielberg with the original Jurassic Park does very well. There's like this little bit of like, what's going on, slow build, hint, 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 then boom, payoff. And there's so many action sequences that follow that as well, where there's not really a big build-up or any kind of flair to the direction. It's a lot of just stuff is happening now, just bursting, you know? And there's even, I noticed too, like some choppy kind of like edits made as well. So I was kind of put off by some of the way Trevorrow helmed this, but I was also put off by the way that it seemed like Trevorrow made it out to be like, this is the movie I've always wanted to make because of this idea, but then he barely kind of utilizes this idea. There's two different movies going on. There's two different movies that eventually kind of become the same one, but even then, kind of not. As I said, you have the original cast looking into this new corporation doing locust stuff. But then you have, you know, what do you do with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard? Because they were in the last two, we can't just write them out. And, you know, they have that clone girl, so what do we do? So they come up with a storyline for that, and eventually it'll build into them meeting each other. It all has the same thing to do. But it feels... This is the way I was, like, thinking about it earlier, and this is full-on, like, conspiracy. I can't prove that this is what happened. All I can say is that this is what it feels like happened. Once again, not saying this did happen, it just feels like it. It feels like the reason why Emily Carmichael is now a co-writer on this, seemingly out of nowhere after Pacific Rim Uprising, is because she wrote, like, her own kind of, like, original sci-fi thriller involving locusts and maybe a new batch of characters sneak into this corporation, do some espionage stuff, see what's going on. Maybe there's some other creatures there, but then at the end of the day, the corporation is toppled and they win the day, whatever. And it's almost as if there's that script of hers floating around. And then Colin Trevorrow, desperate to find, like, what do I do for this next Jurassic World movie? Oh my gosh, what do I do? He stumbles upon this and is like, you know, that would be something interesting for the original cast to do. And I can also, out of my ass, pull out a new storyline with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard and just mash them together. And that's our big finale. It feels like that. Once again, I've said it too many times, but once again, I can't prove that happened, and it probably isn't what happened, but that's what it feels like, because both feel pretty disconnected, even in the way they're made, you know, because a lot of the choppier kind of stuff happens with the Owen Grady, Claire stuff. And the original cast, whenever it comes to them, it's a little bit more like, you know, laid back, a little more kind of chill. And that storyline, even though it has nothing to do with, you know, the other Jurassic World part of this whole thing, it's a little bit more interesting just because, you know, hey, they're doing something, they're reuniting, and that's treated with care, and there's the little warm feeling you get when you see the original cast. I can definitely say that them on screen, them interacting, aces. They're really great. They haven't missed a beat. It's just wonderful to see them again and kind of fix some things, not spoiling anything, but fix some things that maybe some of the other sequels made mistakes on. It was cool to see that. If this was just a movie where they brought back the original cast and there's some dinosaurs lurking around, but they're on their own, just contained kind of thriller espionage movie, it would have been fine. It probably isn't a good like finale movie for like this franchise, specifically the World trilogy, but it would have been a fine movie, you know, to see them again. They got to deal with this villain who we'll talk more about that later, but you know, it's fine. It would be a fine movie just to see them interact again, and they're doing something to do with science and, you know, prehistoric creatures. But then you couple it in with the Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard stuff, and it's just very noticeably not the same. Like every time they started to cut away from Sam Neill or Laura Dern, and they cut back to Chris Pratt and Bryce, that's when it was like, oh God, please get back to them, you know? And it's something, there's something else that I want to say that look, I've defended Chris Pratt in the other movies. I've been like, hey, he's got a nice charm to him. He's a fun character. And for the most part, he's been the character who's been like, I don't give a fuck about these dinosaurs, but he does care about Blue. But everyone else, I don't give a fuck. He's kind of like Ian Malcolm, where he's just like, yeah, just let him die. What are we doing here? Except he cares about Blue. You know, there's an interesting thing there, though. They've never really explored much about his character, though, or really developed him at all. He's kind of stayed the exact same, and it really shines here how poorly developed, or like developed not at all, his character is. He is just a flatline in this movie, and Bryce Dallas Howard is upstaging him tremendously. Like you can tell her character has changed from the start, even if Fallen Kingdom was a little wonky. You can tell her character's had a journey. There's some interesting dynamic going on with her and her adopted daughter, clone girl, Maisie, that's the name. You know, and those two are fine with each other. They have solid chemistry, and Bryce Dallas Howard also has quite a bit of action stuff to do, and she pulls it off expertly well. And, you know, Chris Pratt, you know, he looks good doing action stuff, obviously, but there's just not that same kind of like, you know, personality that exudes from Bryce Dallas Howard. And Chris Pratt, who usually I'm like, well, he was fun at least. I understand his character's kind of smarmy and a bit of a sexist, but, you know, yeah, he's fine. You know, he's got that smile or whatever. In this, he's like, there's none of that charm. It is gone. It's like, there's especially a scene also where it requires him to be like frantic, kind of dramatic, storming into a place like, we gotta go. And it feels like a rehearsal before they actually do the take. And I was astonished. I was like, this guy usually is the one that people point to as like, he's the best part because he's at least fun to watch. And now it feels like he's just been reduced to, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing on this set for some reason. So every time it cuts between them, it's like, oh God, please get back to the originals. Oh, thank God they're back. No, go back, you know? So it was like, oh God. And then eventually these characters, obviously if you've seen the trailers, and obviously they're going to meet at some point. When they do, it feels very, it doesn't feel like an event, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like anything. And obviously, you know, the characters in the original trilogy are way better. You know, the newer cast, some of them have moments and some of them are fine at acting, but it's, you know, there's just nothing that stands out. But when they meet, it should probably be this thing of like, you know, let's talk a bit, let's like form some connections before we go on and, you know, participate in the third act. It just feels like, hey, we've met up, and I know you from reading this book, and I know you because you were in the news or something. Hey, didn't you do that thing in the news or whatever? And then that's it. They just keep going. They keep going. And it's like these characters have now met, new cast, original cast, and they have like 30 seconds to just be like, I know you, and I appreciate your work. You're a cool guy. And then they just keep going. It's like, I don't want to say it's completely like Rise of Skywalker. It kind of is, though. They're very similar just in the sense that Rise of Skywalker definitely felt like a mad dash to a finish. But at least Rise of Skywalker has, like, it's stupid, but they did build up like this is the biggest final battle of all time or anything like that. This one is just like they're rushing to a finish because they've said this is the last part in this series, at least this trilogy, and it doesn't feel... Nothing feels eventful. A lot of these movies also have at least one point where the director tries to be Spielberg. There's the Spielbergian-esque kind of whimsical, kind of saccharine moment, and this movie doesn't have that anywhere. Like, they didn't even try to do a Spielberg moment where, like, look at the dinosaur, oh my gosh, so whimsical and magical, and the score really kicks up, or any sad moment, like anything in Fallen Kingdom where the Brachiosaur, stands up, does the thing, but there's smoke and it's dying. It's like, oh no. There's none of that in this. Michael Giacchino does a solid score, obviously. There's actually plenty of bits where it also sounds like he's trying to do like a 70s, 80s B-movie kind of sci-fi sound, which I'll give him that. That's something interesting. It was solid score. Michael Giacchino's always great. But there's just no moments where I was like, this is a standout Jurassic moment, am I right? This is a good bit for the franchise. Not to say that there isn't fun action in this. Obviously there is. Colin Trevorrow can direct a competent movie. He can, make some fun action sequences, like the chase, where it kind of becomes like a Bond or Bourne kind of movie. They're, doing motorcycles as raptors are chasing them, where Bryce Dallas Howard is jumping through windows and on top of rooftops. Cool, like there's cool action bits. There's a sequence underground in particularly where I was like, oh shit, it was pretty suspenseful. But that being said, that's like the only bit where I was like, oh shit, are they gonna get out? What's going on? Where the suspense was really kicking. Every other action sequence, as I mentioned earlier, there's no real flair to when they kick off. Sometimes the editing is choppy, and also there's just no tension throughout a lot of it. It's a lot of like, yeah, I figure... Yeah, obviously I've seen the trailer, so I know there's going to be other scenes with them, but they're doing nothing to convince me that, anything is wrong here. Like, you can watch like a prequel or like anything where I've seen the next installment, or I know there's another one coming, these people will be fine. But through filmmaking, through like the craft, there can be moments where you can be tricked, where you're like, oh shit, like a big example, I got three for you. Avengers Endgame, that one, where it's like, that third act, they really drag it out and it really gets you in suspense until the last possible second. The Clone Wars finale, I know Ahsoka's gonna make it out of there, I know Captain Rex is gonna make it out of there, but fuck, they just keep it going, it's just so suspenseful, and it really does get me when I watch those. Like, oh my gosh, I'm shaking, but I know what happens. Most recently, Top Gun Maverick, which it's going to be unfair to compare this with that, because Top Gun Maverick, as far as like blockbuster filmmaking, is on a different level. I know I haven't reviewed it, I'm sorry, that's my bad, but it's a great movie. It's way better than this as far as like legacy sequels also. But even that, the third act is just non-stop biting your nails. Fuck, how are they getting out of this? How are they getting out of this? Oh my god, it keeps going, it keeps piling on. And you are constantly like, I don't think Tom Cruise is gonna die because it's a Tom Cruise movie and, he loves to prove that he can do impossible shit. But fuck, I don't know, They kept that going, and that's a great finale. In this movie, this is the last one. This is the last one in the Jurassic World trilogy, at least. The last time we're seeing a majority of these characters. I don't know what other plans they have, I don't know. But this is the last one. There's no suspense. Even the third act, there's no point where you're like, oh no, they might not make it out of here. It's slowly building. Oh my gosh, everything is piling onto each other. There's none of that. It just, what this movie does is that it just ends with another attempt at a Jurassic World Indominus Rex versus Blue and T-Rex fight. Except it's the worst version of that. Like, at least World had a better dinosaur monster villain in the Indominus Rex. In this one, they just introduce it at one point like, oh yeah, they made this thing and I guess it's a big threat, but it's like the biggest carnivore, but we don't need to worry about that now until like, another 20 minutes from now when the third act starts, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not as properly built up. It's not even as cool as the Endoraptor from Fallen Kingdom. It's just, you can barely tell, like, it kind of looks like it has like a similar jaw to like the Indominus Rex. It's just not anything. It's not as cool as the other two monster villains. It was embarrassing, like in the marketing they were trying to talk about like, this is our Joker. He just wants to watch the world burn. And it's like, this dinosaur doesn't have any of that personality. If anything, there's a bit where it runs into our group of main characters everywhere, and it just kind of slowly stalks them for no real reason other than, I don't know, like they just go around a car, dinosaur kind of slowly follows their exact path, and they move also, and it just continues to slowly follow them, and then eventually it decides to like try to bite. Nothing about this is cool or scary or suspenseful because it's not doing anything. And we have way too many characters here. You can eat some of them, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, obviously we don't want to see any of the original cast go, but I mean, shit, if Alan Grant got eaten up by this dinosaur, or Ian Malcolm, then, you know, stakes are incredibly raised, and it's like, oh fuck, we just lost one. No, you know what I mean? Slight spoilers. I'm going to give you till the end of this countdown to give the slight spoiler away, which you probably already know because it's very obvious. No one dies. There's plenty of points in the marketing where you see like these big groups of people just huddled like, oh no, stay back. And it's like, that's enough food for these dinosaurs. Some of them have got to go, but no, they all make it. Everyone who is a main character, a hero, makes it. And it's like, this is, once again, this is the finale. This is the last one. If you're going to do anything ballsy or risky or increase the stakes in any way, now is the time. If you want to have Chris Pratt go out in like an epic, you know, hero sacrifice moment, because there's nothing else to that character, and that would at least give him something, you know, now's the time to do it. But they did nothing to really warrant like this, like everything they do in the trailers where it's like the epic conclusion. Oh my gosh, everyone's back for this epic finale. Look at our runtime. It's so long. Epic finale. They do nothing to really justify it. You know, nothing in the storytelling feels like a big finale. Nothing in the way they craft these action sequences feels like a big finale. Even the last couple moments with the characters, you know, save for like one, it doesn't really feel like a worthy finale. I absolutely hate the idea that the original cast is just like, I'm not used to that, and they're referring to a little girl feeding like a little dinosaur. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not used to the idea of us coexisting with it, but oh well, I guess maybe we will. That's horrible. That goes against everything that, like, at least Ian Malcolm has said. Like, this is a fucking nightmare, and this should not be a thing. The last move in the final fight is cool. I will give them that. But everything in that last fight, it reduced the tension. I was not in suspense. They did nothing to try to get that same magic that the original Jurassic World fight had. You know, that one even had the buildup of like, we've shown the Mosasaurus enough, you're aware they're kind of in the same area. Blue is helping out the T-Rex because Claire unleashed it, because they showed it earlier in the movie, it's there, it's nearby. You know, there's buildup to everything, and they've, you know, shown the villainous dinosaur enough to warrant this. And in this movie, it's just, well, yeah, we need another dinosaur fight. We didn't really get a big team-up dinosaur fight in the Fallen Kingdom movie, so let's just do it here. It's just cool final move, but everything else around it was just so lame. I talked enough about the villainous dinosaur, but what about the villainous human who runs this company? The plan, it's either I don't think it makes sense, or maybe I'm just not fully grasping what it was that they were talking about was the plan. It doesn't seem like one that will work in the long run, but also if you want to talk about, you know, narratively, it doesn't match up with anything else that anyone is here to see. You know, locusts, and you know, trying to control the food population by using this company's seed because the locusts won't eat that. What the fuck does this have to do with the dinosaurs that are running amok and doing all this shit? What is going on, you know? And it's a mixture of, it has nothing to do with anything that this movie is trying to act like it's about, and also it doesn't seem like it's something that can work, so why would some billionaire think to do this? Like, obviously, I've said before, you know, I'm able to let slide the idea that Jurassic World can be a fully functioning theme park because look at how stupid people can be. But when it comes to this villain's specific plan, I just don't see how no one on like his board or anyone else around him who he relies on to be smarter than him would be like, no, what? You know, it's just so dumb. And then we got to talk about B.D. Wong, his last appearance as Dr. Henry Wu. This character's been all over the place. Like the original Jurassic Park, he's just a guy who is doing stuff because Hammond pays him. You know, it directly applies to Ian Malcolm's. You didn't stop to think if you should. You just thought how cool it would be that we can. You know what I mean? But then they bring him back for World. It's kind of the same thing, but it ends, his appearance in that movie ends with him going like, what about our deal with insert company name here? I think it was Engine. I don't think it was a separate company, but what about our deal to keep doing stuff? And then Fallen Kingdom, he's holding a gun at someone while someone's handcuffed, like, you're gonna stay down there, don't move, I'm a big bad guy giving a speech or whatever. And then even Camp Cretaceous, which is a show no one watches except for me, he's like played like way more like dour, dark, cartoony villain, like, ugh, fuck. And then in this movie, they try to give him like a redemption arc, and even that doesn't work because there is no consistent through line with this character. This character is such a minor appearance in the first Jurassic World and is even more minor in Fallen Kingdom. Like Chris Pratt doesn't even meet this character once, you know. Claire only met him in like that opening scene in Jurassic World. What is this character exactly? And there's even a bit of tension where, you know, someone's like, this guy, he's responsible for everything. We shouldn't forgive him or let him do anything. But nothing comes of that. They just keep moving, keep it going. And it's just so unsatisfying. Oh my god, they did everything wrong, it seems like. Obviously, there's a lot of technical stuff that works, you know, solid visual effects stuff. Some dodgy visual effects stuff, but mostly solid visual effects stuff. Good score by Michael Giacchino, fun action. There's some good jokes from the original cast, everyone bantering about. Some solid performances sneak their way in. And you know what? Like I said, I don't necessarily completely hate the idea of this plot. But it's got the worst execution imaginable. I don't know why. I don't know why this was the vision. I don't know why this was the plan all along for Trevorrow. But this movie, this is a highly grossing franchise. This movie has so much money pumped into it, and they can't even do anything that, like, as a fan of the original movie, they can't do anything to even attempt to recapture that magic, to have interesting scientific, philosophical debates. You just have characters not do action, maybe just have an interesting conversation about morals, anything like that, or even attempt to capture the wondrous filmmaking that Spielberg had. It doesn't have to be like, look at the whimsical stuff as the music kicks in. It can be just the long takes that Spielberg is accustomed to doing, you know? Like, even, remember Lost World, how he kept the stakes building with that truck about to fall off the cliff, but then you have, you know, Eddie scrambling to try to help out Goldblum and Julianne Moore and all them, you know? Do something that's, like, at least like that. And they don't. They just do a lot of bland shit. And then just, there's so many other smaller moments that I oh my god, I could literally, like, take an hour, like, just talking about everything. They bring back the stupid fucking laser pointer thing from Fallen Kingdom. I feel like everyone was like, hey yo, if you're just gonna use a laser pointer to identify a target, why not just use a fucking gun? But they bring back the laser pointer thing for an action scene, and I was distracted throughout the entire thing because I just kept thinking back, like, I can't believe they actually brought back the thing that I think everyone complained about. Are you kidding me? That's so stupid. So many stupid moments where characters seemingly just don't notice shit. Not just like the dinosaur that I mentioned earlier, but there's like a moment where a character is trying to land a plane, and they're like, I'm gonna land here, and then someone over the radio goes, wait, no, don't do that. And then just then a big dinosaur head pops up, and it's like, oh shit, didn't notice that at all. They're everywhere. How do you not notice? Like, the guy, like, you know, on his little scooter getting eaten by a dinosaur that was like right in front of him, and he does nothing. Like, there's just so many bits of stupidity. Oh my god. If I can end on a positive at all, I guess, here's a couple. DeWanda Wise, she was great. As far as like a new side character coming in, you know, she had way more charisma than Chris Pratt, and they're paired together, you know, it's, you know, good actress. Would love to see her in more stuff. If she could have led this movie instead of Chris Pratt and worked with the original cast, that'd be great. Mamadou Afi, who's also a new kind of character. Don't want to give away too much of what he's doing, but I also liked him. He's got a cool shirt on, but he's also, you know, he's a solid actor, and he, you know, had something interesting to do, and it's tied to the legacy cast. So it's not like you would have to do a lot of work to, like, rewrite his involvement to be in this other movie where you write out Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. Like, no, he's already there, so you can make that work. Justice Smith is in it for, like, a couple minutes, and he's not screaming and hollering, which, you know, better use of that. I don't know what else to say. This franchise is dead to me. I think what I was kind of thinking about earlier was I was really only excited for this movie because I wanted to see the legacy cast again. I wanted to see them one more time. And now that I have, they can't tempt me anymore. Like, if they try to do, like, here's another film series with Jurassic, here's something else, here's Jurassic Planet, you know, or some shit like that. I don't care, you know, I don't really have a reason to care anymore because I've already seen the original cast reunite. That's what I wanted to see, and even though the movie's bad, you know, I like seeing them in it. If you bring them back, you can't tempt me, you can't trick me into thinking like, oh, this could potentially be good. Like, no, I've already seen them, it's cool, I'm done with this franchise. Camp Cretaceous season whatever comes out next month, can't wait for that. Legitimately, I'm actually really excited for that. I just don't know what else they're going to do. I know they keep hinting like this is just the end of this specific saga. It's like, I don't think we need any more. I'm going to give Jurassic World Dominion a D+. There's a lot to admire technically. You know, like I said, Colin Trevorrow can make a competent enough blockbuster, but God, it's all in the storytelling. All in the storytelling, and it just completely fell flat for me. Once again, I have no idea why this is the direction they wanted to take with Jurassic, but here we are. Okay. Like I said, I'm not even against completely the ideas that they had. Just, you gotta build on them better. You gotta do a better job executing them. Some of these ideas can work as separate things, and that's okay. We live in an age where there's like 15 million Marvel movies coming out at once. You know, and that's not even counting the TV shows, you know what I mean? We're fine with, like, if you want to release, like, a separate thing and then do something else, like, have these kind of build. Hopefully, though, this film series can finally go to rest. Anyways, what did you guys think of Jurassic World Dominion? Leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.